Hello, everybody. Hi, and welcome. Welcome to this month's Bangkok RELO webinar. I can see people are arriving now, so good to have you with us. Maybe if you can just say hello in the chat box so we can see who's arrived before I do some introductions. Hello there. Hi, Kanakwan. And for the chat, can you change your switch it so that it says to all panelists and attendees, and then you'll all be able to see each other's ideas. Hi, everybody. Okay, so yes, another warm welcome to the monthly Bangkok RELO webinar. I'm Katie. My name is Katie Wood. I work for AUA as a teacher trainer in Thailand. And today I'm the host. And it's my pleasure to have with us Kerry Millward, who is both a friend and a colleague. She's a very experienced teacher trainer and educational consultant. And she's worked in many different countries and a lot of work in Asia and Southeast Asia. And today she will be talking to us about using CLIL to raise environmental awareness. So welcome, Kerry. Take it away.
Hi, thank you for that introduction, Katie. Yes, as Katie said, I'm going to be talking about using CLIL to raise environmental awareness. So this will entail looking at what is CLIL, a brief overview of considerations when teaching CLIL, and practical ideas for raising environmental issues using CLIL methodology. So before I start, I'd like to give some credit to Alexandra Zaparucha, because I've used some ideas of hers and a few visuals from her talk at IATEFL in 2018. So I'll leave a link at the end of this talk for you to access her website as well. Okay, but I want this talk to be a little bit different to her talk because it will be a little bit less on methodology and theory and much more on practical ideas that you can use in the classroom. Okay, so let's start with a poll, a CLIL poll, to find out what you already know about CLIL. So I want you to think, who are you? Are you A, you don't know what CLIL is? Or B, you have an idea what CLIL is but want to know more? Or are you C, you know what CLIL is and have taught using CLIL methodology? Okay, Katie, can you launch the poll?
I can. Here we go. Choose your best answer. Okay, we're getting some answers coming in now. Great. Ooh, almost everybody who's here has answered already. Very quick.
Brilliant, brilliant, that's great.
Couple more people. And don't worry, the poll is anonymous. All right, Kerry, so let me share the results of the poll then.
It'll be good to see.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so most people don't know anything about CLIL. Okay, that's good. Well, good, because you've come to the right place.
Yeah.
And there's 40% of people that have an idea, but nobody has said that they've actually used it. Okay, well, that's great, because this is the right place. That's what we're going to talk about now. We're going to talk about a real quick overview to give you an idea of what CLIL is. Let's start with the basics. What is CLIL? So I'll give you a few seconds to start thinking. What does CLIL stand for? C-L-I-L. Just think about that for a minute. What words do they stand for? Okay, here we are. Content and Language Integrated Learning. That's what CLIL stands for. So what does it mean? It means any subject that is taught in a language that is not native to the students. So for example, if you teach music, geography, chemistry, or mathematics through a language that is not native to the students, and in this case, we'll probably talk about English because most of you are English teachers. So if you teach English, if you teach subjects through English, then this is CLIL. Okay, we have two forms of CLIL. There's hard CLIL, which is subject driven and taught by subject teachers. So of course, the subject curriculum drives the language and the language objectives. So here's an example or some examples of the type of subjects that might be taught through CLIL. So I'll just give you a second. Can you guess what pictures these are? I'm going to ask you, Katie, to have a think.
Okay. I think.
Go on.
You want to hear my ideas?
I do.
I think I can see art, geography, maths, music. Somebody in the chat box is saying biology. Very good. Maybe chemistry, maybe. Somebody said genetics. Wow, good answers.
Yeah, great answers. Okay, well, let's have a look then. Yeah, so you're right with music, definitely, mathematics, art, geography, history, and chemistry. But in actual fact, biology is also a subject that we can teach as well.
Yeah, lots of good answers in the chat box there.
Oh, great, that's great, good to know. Okay, so this would be teachers of these subjects teaching their subject in English would be hard CLIL. So let's look at a definition here. This is a definition by Ball, Kelly and Clegg. CLIL, hard CLIL, is delivered in a subject class by subject teachers. It's subject driven. But we do have soft CLIL, and this is what we're going to really be talking about today, because soft CLIL is taught by English teachers in an English classroom. So English teachers teaching English using specific content and a topic, for example, environmental issues. So the definition, soft CLIL, is done in a language classroom by a language teacher, but it's also subject driven. So let's have a look at that. What do we mean by subject driven? So think of a topic. For example, we have countries and culture. This could be a topic that we want to focus on, a content or subject we want to focus on in our classroom. So if we have this subject, then we need to teach some vocabulary so students can understand the text or the video. And we might teach vocabulary of custom, festivals, religion, way of life, and we'll probably use present simple. So as you can see, the topic, countries and culture, drives the language taught. For example, vocabulary of customs, festivals, religion, way of life, for example, etc. Okay, so even in soft CLIL, when English teachers teach, we still need to use subject-specific terminology, so the subject drives the language. Okay, so we have subject-specific terminology here, but that's not the only language, the only English we're going to teach. Here we have some more English, aspects of English that we're going to teach. So here are some examples, and here are the other areas of English we might need to teach in a CLIL lesson. I've missed out some letters. So just take a few seconds to think about what could they be. I'm going to ask you in a moment, Katie. You can tell me.
If you want to type in the box, you can. We'll see if you agree with me, and we'll see if we agree with Kerry. So subject specific we have. So I am guessing we also need, yeah, oh, lots of people, very, very quick, wonderful. They are saying general academic language,
Fantastic.
grammar,
Yeah.
and language for instruction.
Wow, fantastic. That's exactly right. Well done. Thank you, guys. So let's have a quick look through that. So we've already talked about subject specific language. So obviously that's the language that we need to talk about our subject. And in this case, it's the environment. So for example, we have waste, pollution, landfills, recycled. We also need, obviously, general academic language, which a lot of the time is verbs. So, for example, observe and hypothesize, which we might use for science, discover and explore, which we use for history. We need grammar as well, of course, and here we have future tense. Maybe we would use that for the environment. Past tense, obviously history, and then the passive possibly for science. And finally, instructions. As you all said, well done for that. Yeah, examples of instruction: brainstorm ideas, create a poster, discuss your ideas. So this is all the language that we still need to teach in a CLIL lesson. So we not only have the content, the specific content words and the general academic words, we have all the other language like grammar and language of instruction as well. So this is what makes CLIL a little bit more challenging. So we need to think of balance. There are quite a lot of different frameworks in CLIL to help you talk about or balancing your lesson. But I'm only going to talk about one today due to the time aspects and because I only want to give you an overview. I'm going to talk about the 3 dimensions because I personally find this the most useful one to help me balance the lesson so that I don't make it too challenging for the students. So let's have a look at this. 3 dimensions, 3 aspects of language. Any ideas what they could be? Okay, I'll tell you, this is difficult. So concept, procedure, and language. The 3 dimensions are 3 different aspects of a CLIL lesson that we need to think about and we need to balance. So concept is content and subject matter. Procedure is the type of activity you use to focus on the content. So for example, a gap fill or something more challenging like guided discovery where students have to use critical thinking skills. And of course, the language is what language do you need to use in order to teach the content? So is it difficult or easy, vocabulary or grammar? So these are the 3 dimensions. And how does that help us balance? Well, let's look at the next slide. Let's think about it as a mixing desk. So there's a mixing desk. Katie, what's that used for?
It's used to change the volume and the balance of different things in music.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, saying for a DJ.
Yeah, brilliant. That's exactly it. Yeah. Yeah. So exactly, we're looking at different aspects of music and we're changing the volume of things like the treble and the bass. We can also use this analogy for the 3Ds as well. So we can think of concept as one control where we can play with the volume, procedure as another control where we can play with the volume, and language as another control. And the idea is that we move them up and down depending on if one thing is difficult, we make the other thing easier. So let's look at 3 examples here. So 3 lessons. The first lesson, we're teaching astrophysics. Okay. Yeah, right, exactly. So Katie, astrophysics, do you think the concept is going to be easy or difficult?
I think it's going to be very, very difficult.
Yeah, especially for me anyway, but yeah. So that's difficult. So we have a content that is very difficult, a concept, sorry, that is very difficult. So therefore, we need to make the procedure easier, and the language, we try to make it easy, but because the content, astrophysics, is quite challenging, then probably the vocabulary will be new as well. So we can't control that, but we can control the language of instruction and maybe even the grammar that we use as well. So we've got to try and balance the difficulty of each of these aspects. So let's look at that. So if we have a difficult concept, then we need to keep the activities simple. Make sure they are activities your students have done before and are comfortable with. Try to keep language as simple as possible too. So that's example 1. Let's go to example 2. So in example 2, we're teaching, let's say, animals and their names. So Katie, what do you think about that concept? Is that going to be challenging for students, do you think?
No, the concept of naming something is not challenging.
Exactly. Yeah, that should be quite easy, shouldn't it? So therefore, the procedure and even the language can be quite challenging. Let's have a look how that looks. So when the concept is easier, then we can challenge the students with more challenging language, and activities could even be new. They could be creative, or they could challenge students' critical thinking skills. Okay, so that's lesson 2. Lesson 3 now. So we're going to teach pollution, but we've found a text. We think it's a great text, but there's lots of difficult vocabulary and maybe some difficult grammar as well. So let's look at language first here. Katie, what do you think about that? Do you think that language would be easy or difficult for your students?
So we're saying that the text is maybe challenging because it has a lot of difficult or new language in it. So quite difficult, yeah.
Exactly, yeah, yeah. So we found that text, but we could still use it if the concept is easy. So if it's talking about pollution, but it's not talking too much about the science of pollution, just about traffic maybe, we could still use it because the concept is easy to understand. And maybe it's a known concept that students already understand. But we would also try and keep the procedure quite simple as well. So let's have a look at how that looks. So if the language in the text is difficult, make sure the content and the concept is easy to understand. Also, keep activities simple and make sure they are activities that your students have done before and are comfortable with. So these are 3 examples of how we would use the 3 dimensions, the 3 Ds. So we use the 3 Ds in order to make sure your lessons are balanced. So we don't want them to be too challenging. So we don't want them to look like this. We don't want the concept to be too difficult, the procedure to be too difficult, and the language to be too difficult. Because if this happens, then this lesson is unachievable, nothing is learned, and the students are demotivated. On the other hand, we don't want it to be too easy. So like this, where the concept is easy, the procedure is easy, and the language is easy. Again, nothing is learned, and again, this is too demotivating. So that's why we need to think about balancing our lessons. So our lesson should look like this, or maybe like this, balancing the concept, the activities, and the language used. Okay, so now we have looked a little bit about what is CLIL, yeah? But let's think about the advantages of using CLIL in an English language classroom. So think about this question: why teach content in an English language question? I'm going to give you a few minutes. Maybe you can use the Dropbox chat
Yeah,
box.
yeah. If you have an idea, feel free to type, or you can just engage your brain and think about it for a while.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got an interesting point here coming from Alexander, so that students will get to have meaningful and relatable lessons. That's a nice point.
That's a great point, yeah.
Very good. Yeah. Okay. Oh, and Maria is talking about the sense of reality that that CLIL brings.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah.
Eve is mentioning that you know, you've got the advantage because you're not just learning English, you're also gaining knowledge. So a lot of people emphasizing their kind of talking about real world that CLIL brings to the classroom.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Fantastic. That's exactly it. So because it's real world, it's more motivating. But just as you're all saying here, it's realistic. Language is designed to communicate ideas, facts, and information. And that's exactly what you do in a CLIL lesson. So well done, everybody. That's exactly what we're talking about here. We give our students a genuine need to communicate, making, again, more motivating. So that's brilliant. And I think this was mentioned as well, we can integrate all 4 skills and focus on useful vocabulary and grammar too.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it can motivate your learners to do further research outside the classroom. It can make them more independent and autonomous learners if it's something they're really interested in.
Yeah.
And finally, I think this was also mentioned as well, it has a dual purpose. Students learn facts about the content and the language. And in our case, this is English, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, excellent, yeah.
Right.
Okay, so let's get to the point of this talk. We talked about using CLIL to raise environmental awareness. So we've already looked at a little bit of an overview of CLIL. Now let's talk about what we can actually do in the classroom. So why talk about this topic in particular? Yeah, there's another question for you. I'll give you a few moments again, see if you can come up with some more ideas. Possibly use the chat box if you want.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, this is certainly, oh, there we go. Somebody has just said exactly what I was going to say. So Eve's saying it's a critical issue now. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. See if anybody else wants to give us their ideas. Well, I think one thing I can think of is that, oh, somebody else, because it's a topic that's not far from us, right? So I think those two things are kind of related. We can't escape our environment, I guess, is Ake is saying. Yes, good point. And Tana is saying students have experience of this, right? Because, you know, yeah, we all live in our environment.
That's
Very
exactly.
good.
Yeah, brilliant.
And oh, a nice sentence here, the language class becomes a social vehicle from
Wow.
Maria.
Great. Yeah,
Yeah.
brilliant, brilliant. That's exactly what I'm thinking there. Some brilliant ideas there. Great.
Yeah.
So just as we've said, it's 100% relevant to our young learners or young adults. Some of you may teach young learners, some of you may teach older learners as well. So at universities, it's 100% relevant to our young learners or our young adults because it's their future. Excellent, yeah. It raises awareness that can ultimately help your local town or community. It's a popular topic. This is something that was mentioned, isn't it? That comes up in many school curriculums and examinations. So internal examinations and external examinations, such as Cambridge, IELTS, TOEFL. Yeah. Students, sorry, can take action and feel part of the change themselves. So it can be very motivating in that way. It creates a real need for communication. I think some of these ideas have come up in the chat box, haven't they? And there's a lot of ready-made materials out there for you to choose from. So that's also a good reason to do it. It makes life easier for you as well. So there's loads of reasons why we're looking at the environment today. Okay. So the environment is obviously a very big topic. And what I want you to think of is examples of topics that come under the environment. So I can think of one, pollution, for example. Can you think of anything else? So if you could write in the chat box, that'd be great.
Okay, bushfires, air pollution, traffic congestion, air quality, water resources and issues.
Wow, yeah, yeah. Brilliant.
Fantastic ideas coming through, yeah.
Yeah.
Deforestation, yes.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Creatures becoming extinct, forest fires. Yeah, lots, I mean, plastic waste, lots and lots of ideas coming through there. Mm-hmm.
Wow, excellent, excellent. Yeah, I agree with all of those brilliant ideas. I've chosen one topic here, just as one person in the chat box said, plastic. Yeah, so this is just one topic I've chosen because I can't choose them all, but all of those are perfectly valid topics. And they're all topics that are covered in the links that I'm going to show you later as well. So that's brilliant. So not so fantastic plastic. Let's just take this as an example. So let's look at some freaky plastic facts. So I'm going to give you a moment in a minute to see if you can put these numbers in these gaps. But first, let's do an example together. So the first one, plastic bottles are made in the world every day. So how many? Katie, any ideas?
Wow, it could be any of those actually.
It's every second.
Every second. I'm going to guess 16,000.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's exactly right. Brilliant. Well done, Katie. Okay, excellent. So there's 3 left now. So maybe if you want to do it very quickly, you could write in the chat box or just have a think about it. I'll give you just a minute to think about it. I'm going to be asking you in a moment as well, Katie.
Okay, I think I've got it.
Okay. Are there any ideas in the chat box, or is it too?
Not yet. I think everybody's thinking. So
yeah.
Let's see. So, some people have got different ideas. That's interesting.
Ideas, yeah.
Might be right. Okay. Plastic bottles are made in the world every year. I would say that is 500 billion.
Okay.
I think 34 billion, no, hang on. 60,000 plastic bags are used globally every 3 seconds. And I think number 4 is we'll have made 34 billion tons of plastic.
Okay, great. Are there similar ideas in the chat box?
Similar, but some of the differences for 500 billion is in different places.
Yeah. And there's a reason for that as well. So let's have a look at the answers. Thank you for contributing. Oh, well, you did get that right. So I think that was right, Katie. Well done.
Was it right? Wow.
So well done. You got that.
I have to think quite hard about that, though.
Yeah, it was quite challenging. It wasn't obvious, and some of it was a bit of guesswork, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good. So this is about plastic in the world, and it is actually quite shocking, isn't it? So 500 billion plastic bags are made every year, and 60,000 plastic bags, sorry, that was plastic bottles, 60,000 plastic bags are used globally every 3 seconds. That's just crazy. Yeah. Um, okay, so some crazy facts there. There's all that plastic. Let's look at the next. Do you think Thailand has similar issues? So the world has a problem. There's problems all over the world. But do you think Thailand has some problems as well? And if so, what's the biggest problem for the environment in Thailand? So again, I'll just give you a few minutes. You can say yes, no, and for number 2, any ideas would be great. So write in the chat box if you can.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think, as you said, there is not a country on the planet that doesn't have environmental issues at the moment, but biggest problem, so floods, so
Wow.
mentioned, yeah, there has been flooding, hasn't there? We also, people are talking about, there is sometimes an issue with smoke from burning forests, yeah, also very common globally, right?
Yeah, yeah, it is.
So plastics and air pollution, and wasting of water. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Plastic again. So the two things that seem to be coming through as the main things that that are particularly problematic is plastic and air pollution.
Yeah, yeah. Which again is one of the biggest problems in the world at the moment. People burning rubbish happens a lot as well. I was talking to actually Alexandra in her talk. She talked about people burning rubbish in Poland. Okay, so let's have a look at the next text. It agrees with you about plastic. And also you'll be able to find texts about the problems with burning in Thailand and the rest of the world. But let's just look at this text. We have the same idea again. We have we have 2 numbers and 1 word there, or noun phrase. Could you just take a second to think about where they will go in the text? 1, 2, or 3? I'll ask you later as well, Katie.
Okay. 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 All right. Would you like to hear? We've got.
Yeah, let's hear some ideas from the chat box.
Okay, so we've got 70 billion, followed by 1 million tons, followed by plastic straws. Yes,
Okay,
which
so,
is also what I think.
all right, so most people have said that.
Yes.
Brilliant, brilliant.
But so far, more people have said that than not.
Okay, well, we'll look at the answers in one moment. I just quickly want to point out what that is. This is a dugong, just in case you didn't notice. It's you didn't know what it meant. I meant it's a water sea mammal, which is something similar to a dolphin. Okay, now let's look at the text. Well done, guys. Yep, perfect. So you all seem to find that much easier than the first text. Was that right, Katie? Did you find it easier than the first text?
Yes, so I mean, here I can, so the last text I have to guess using my knowledge of facts, my world background knowledge. Here I can use that, but I can also work it out from a language point of view as well. Yeah. Because I know that plastic straws can't go before plastic bags. So I know that I'm looking for there, I know I'm looking for a number before plastic bags.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I know that tons goes together, collocates with tons of garbage. So I can use those clues to help me work this out.
Exactly, and that just leaves plastic straws. And if you look at the rest of that sentence, we have plastic bags and we have cigarette butts. So they're all nouns. So it'd be most likely this would be a noun phrase anyway. Yeah,
Right.
excellent. Yeah. So so this is something we can think about when we're teaching. Obviously, using texts is a great way to introduce facts, to create interest in our lesson, in the subject, the topic. And of course, a gap fill is another good way to do this. And like you said, we can give students linguistic clues as well. So that's what we can start thinking about. Also, let's look at the Thai text, the text we just had there. How does it relate to the 3 dimensions? Okay, so imagine we're teaching some students that are B1 level, teenagers that are B1 level. Would that text, would the language in the text be challenging or easy? What do you think, Katie?
Some of it's fairly challenging. Can you go back one slide so I could have another little look? Actually,
Well,
it's
I
not.
would think it was quite challenging. We've got dump, estimated, garbage, um, major
Yeah.
contribution, discard,
Yes, you're right.
gone.
Contributor. Yeah.
So, well, I've thought for my B1 teenagers, I thought it was actually quite challenging. So I
Yeah.
put it there. So because I thought it was challenging, then what about the concept, facts and figures? Do you think those are challenging?
No, not massively.
No, not at all. Okay, and what about the activity type? It was a gap fill. So do you think my students might be used to gap fills?
Yes, I would say they won't have any problems with how to do a gap fill at all.
Exactly. So I found a text, and this text was from Wikipedia, but I thought it might be quite challenging in terms of language, but it was okay because I thought the concept was quite easy, and I graded the task as well to make the task easier. So let's have a look at that. So the language in the text is quite challenging. But the concept is easy, facts and figures. And so the activity procedure has been kept simple, easy, using something familiar to the students like a gap fill. So those are things to think about. And this will be quite a normal situation when you look online for materials. A lot of the materials might be quite challenging. So you need to balance this out and think, well, if the language is difficult, maybe I can still use it if the concept is easy, and I can make the procedure easier as well. So this is how we can use the 3Ds when we're thinking of creating CLIL lessons. Okay, so we've introduced all those facts. We've used a receptive skill. This could have been done in a video or listening as well, a text, a video, a listening. And it's usual then to come to some speaking or writing extension afterwards. So what do you think we could do after that? So that's our receptive part, but we want to end the lesson on some speaking or writing. What could students do? Any ideas? Just give you a moment to think about that.
I'm sure we will get some ideas for that one. What would I do? Perhaps things like students can come up with some kind of action plan about how problems can be solved. Alex is saying an infographic poster. We've got, yeah, very nice. Role playing about a campaign.
Yeah.
From Egg, yeah.
Yeah, very nice ideas.
Perhaps students could, because the nice thing about this is we've said it's realistic, you know, it's a real problem. So perhaps they could actually write to somebody to ask for some action.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We've got other ideas, right, how to help the environment. So a lot of people talking about problem solving. A nice idea here also about speak about how to reduce plastic use in their own school. So then, you know, really focusing on their own environment.
Excellent, personalizing it. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
brilliant. Yeah. Wow, some great ideas. We've got some really creative teachers here today. Great.
Yes.
My ideas are very similar. So in
Ooh,
the classroom, oh, you got
just
another
sorry,
idea?
a couple more very nice ones. So writing narratives of affected people. I think that's quite a nice idea from Maria, very creative. Somebody else has come up with a mock demonstration, making campaign placards or verbal catchphrases. Great, how creative you all are.
Demonstrate on the street. Maybe maybe they could make a video with their demonstration placard. That's
Interviewing
brilliant.
people about how they feel about the issue. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Well, actually, it sounds like you've come up with most of the ideas I have in. I've already prepared myself, but let's see them. So, exactly as people have said, brainstorm ideas of how the country can use less plastic. And like I think you mentioned this, Katie, you write to local factories, hotels, restaurants. Brainstorm ideas of how your students can use less plastic at home. Again, I think someone mentioned that earlier, didn't they? Or how the country can use less plastic. So problem solving, just as we've mentioned before there.
Mm.
And make a poster. You had a better idea. An infographic is very nice, but it depends on the materials you've got. Either an infographic or a poster. Both of those are brilliant, with all the facts that you found out and the solutions they came up with. Really nice. And of course, you talked, people have been talking about influencing, trying to change people's minds. So they could display the posters in the school windows or maybe the school corridor, and maybe even if possible, some sort of community center so they can try and influence their community. Shops even, maybe.
What's very nice about a lot of these is how much thinking skills is involved, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Thinking
Thinking skills, definitely critical thinking skills, yeah. And again, maybe if we motivate students enough, you're giving them that real need for communication as well. Yeah, so they can write a blog, maybe. This depends on the age of the students, but and the level, of course, but they could write a blog and post it on either a tourist site, an international environmental site, or TripAdvisor, for example. It depends on your local community, but if you live in a tourist area, then you could advise tourists what to do and what not to do. Maybe even what places they could go, restaurants and hotels that are more environmentally friendly. So that could motivate students as well. Of course, we could look at social media, maybe make a Facebook group, a closed Facebook group, to Twitter, Instagram, or Pinterest account, sorry, whatever network they prefer, depending on their age. There's lots of different preferences there, maybe Viber or something. And this could include facts, blog posts, videos that they make. And again, this can be very motivating. This can also be done outside the classroom as well. So it can be started inside the classroom, as can join a project online. You can do that and become part of a wider community as well. Okay, so those are things inside the classroom. And as we mentioned, these two things could be done outside the classroom, started inside the classroom, and then be homework for everybody to write a post, make a video, do this in groups. That could be quite fun for students to do as well. But there are other things you can do as well outside the classroom, other projects. So maybe we could give you one more minute to think about that and write in the chat box. Yeah.
So I think, I mean, to be fair, I think some of the previous ideas, you know, so go out and interview people, that kind of thing. Those are also kind of can be extended into projects, can't they?
Exactly. Yes, you're right. I've actually got that as one of the projects. Yes. So you're absolutely right. So let's put that now then. So I said students find facts on different environmental issues in their country, city, town. This could be online or using books. So that depends. You know your students, you know their resources, you know if they have access to the internet or to books, etc. So they could find out, for example, how many plastic bottles are thrown away in their area.
Yes.
Or this
Sorry
was
to
the
Sorry,
idea.
Kerry. Just somebody is making that point, kind of, Ake is making the point, raise awareness about a local specific problem and take it from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, then this is something that's even more personal. We talked about interviews, and that's exactly what I've got here as well, making it personalized. So even do a survey with the family and friends. So how many plastic bags do you use? Do you recycle? How many plastic bags do you throw away, etc.? And this, of course, is very local as well. Yeah, but that idea of making it local is brilliant. And one thing about these last two, sorry, Katie.
Sorry, I was just going to say, and then of course those will feed back into the classroom, won't they? Because the results of that survey can then be used for a productive lesson with a presentation, etc. Yeah.
Exactly. And that leads on to what I'm about to say, which is the fact that the research can actually, and the interview can be in the local language. So it could be in Thai or whatever your local language is. And then the report, if it's written, or even if it's spoken, is then translated into English. Yeah, so this is called translanguaging, which we'll talk about in a moment. So yeah, it doesn't matter if in their local community they don't have books in English, but the English is where they translate the ideas into English and report back to you. Okay, another idea, work with local hotels and restaurants. Again, this is what was said earlier. Maybe collect plastic for recycling, make and sell things out of recycled plastic, clean the beaches and local tourist areas, maybe hand out leaflets. So of course, the last few, it depends on your area, on your students. We have to think of safeguarding. If they're a little bit young, then we have to think about them being with an adult or a parent or a teacher to do some of these things. These things have been done in different countries, different parts of the world. It's up to you to think about it and think, well, which ones of these can I do in my community? Which ones would be the most motivating and which would work?
So some people coming up with very similar ideas, and also making the point we might have to wait until we're allowed to go out a little bit more with COVID-19, but great
Yeah.
idea. Yeah.
That's a really good point. At the moment, then I think we'll do most of it online or just keep it with families and things. But yeah, that's a really good point. Okay, just a quick note here, translanguaging. This is something that's quite important with CLIL. Because we have so many challenging elements in the classroom, then translanguaging is when the students use the first language and the target language in the classroom. So especially useful in CLIL, as students can use their first language while processing the content and then report back in the target language. This is called translanguaging. One example that we've talked about is students do research outside the classroom in their first language, and then they write the report or give the feedback in the classroom in English. So that's something to think about. Don't be afraid of letting your students do research in their first language, as long as they report back to you in English. And in the classroom as well, maybe they can talk first in English, but they have to know that they report, sorry, in their own language, but they have to know they need to report back in English. So they prepare in their groups, etc. And obviously the posters and the infographics are going to be in English as well. Right.
Yes,
So
the people liking that idea.
yeah.
Yeah.
So let's quickly look at some of the resources I talked about. I'm going to show you all of these later, so don't worry about taking a photo of anything just yet. So learnenglishkids.britishcouncil.org. This is a brilliant site, and it has ready-made materials for the environment. This is another great site, which is called ypte.org, which stands for Young People's Trust for the Environment. So this is better for older learners, maybe teenagers to young adults. This is where I got the plastic facts from, the original plastic facts. There's videos, lots of different texts on lots of different topics. And also there's a teacher's site as well that has ready-made lessons. So that's fantastic.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And then we also have this one, eltsustainable.com. There's 7 tips for environment themed language lessons. Okay. And these have ready-made lessons, but they also have lessons and things that you can adapt, like videos and texts as well. And finally, this is something called Sustainable Development Goals, which is actually about different projects, different environmental projects around the world done in schools. So you can use them in the classroom to create interest, but you can also get involved as well.
Great.
A very similar thing here, eco schools, and again there's a text about how Thai schools have already got involved and won awards, so that's fantastic. And you can join this and become part of the project yourself, or create your own project. So lots to think about.
Wonderful.
And here are all the links. So Katie, how are they going to find the links?
Okay, so of course remember that all of our RELO webinars are recorded, so you will be able to watch the video and skip forward if you've already been with us, and find this slide so that you've got a record of the links there. So if you look on the RELO Bangkok webinar tube on YouTube, channel on YouTube, you'll be able to find that all there.
And something that I think will be much more useful is just go to this one link. Yeah. So I don't know if any of you know what a Padlet is. Yeah. But if you just go to this link here, so I created a Padlet page, you just go to this one link, you will see all of those links here embedded in this page. And I've also written ideas, an overview of each of the links. I've color coded it as well. So for example, if you have kids, it's in light blue. That you can only see a few on this view, but there's actually more in light blue if you scroll down.
Wow.
If you have, you had teenagers and young adults, then they'll be in yellow. So there's quite a few in yellow. And then there's other things that are in red. That means it's useful for everyone, including the teachers as well. And I've also put down here the CLIL link, which I'm going to show you later here. So this is Alexandra Zaparucha's link. So if you want to know more about CLIL, so much more about methodology and different frameworks of teaching CLIL, lots of practical ideas as well, then go to this website.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow, loads of ideas and materials there, and food for thought for you to take away and use. That's wonderful, Kerry.
So I would advise go to this Padlet here, because that's where it all is. So all you need really is this one link, and you'll be able to go to this Padlet. And you can also like and write comments. Maybe you did something useful with it, or you had a great idea. Write the comments so other people that come to the board can see them. That would be great.
Fantastic. What a great way to share. Great.
Yeah. Exactly, that was the idea. So, well, I hope that's the end of my talk. So I hope that was useful, and I hope that you can use some of these ideas to motivate your students and maybe even change the world. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, we only have a very short amount of time left, but if anybody has a burning question that they would like to ask Kerry before we finish, now is your chance. I think personally, for me, Kerry, I can't wait to go and look at all those links. There's going to be so much there that I can take away and use. Okay, lots of people saying thank you, Kerry. So well done. That was really very informative. And what I really liked is this idea of how to apply practical but also theoretical brought together. Okay. Oh, people are saying that they're inspired by this. Great.
Oh, great.
Well, thank you so very much, Kerry. Bangkok RELO, thank you again for providing these webinars. Thank you to Kerry for coming along. I would like to remind you that they are monthly. So thank you, Kerry. It's just showing the information for the next RELO Bangkok webinar, which will be Jump Off the Page, highlighting language patterns in more creative and memorable ways. So I will be hosting that one again. I'll be being joined by Matthew Noble of RMUTT Patantani. So I've already talked to him about that, and it's going to be very exciting. So thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Kerry, and we hope to see you soon. Don't forget to follow Bangkok RELO on Facebook and AUA on Facebook, and then we can keep in touch with you about all these wonderful things. And don't forget to visit all of Kerry's links. That's all from us. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.